Hey bookish friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do my seasonal TBR for the summer, which I'm counting as June, July, and August of the year. I've never done a seasonal TBR before, but I thought I'd start doing that to try to focus on reading books that fit the seasons. So I've picked 15 books because it's 3 months, so I figure I can read 5 books a month from the seasonal TBR and then also pick books from the rest of my physical TBR or Kindle or whatever to read along with these. So I'm just going to go through them pretty quickly. I don't want this to be too long, but I have already chosen my TBR for the month of June, and I did manage to build in 5 of the books. And the first one is Elsie Silver's Wild Love, which is the first book in the Rose Hill series. I did just finish the Chestnut Spring series, so I am excited to jump into another one of hers. And this is, I believe, all going to be single dad trope books in this series, so I'm excited for that. I typically do not like that trope, but Heartless was one of my favorite books out of the Chestnut Spring series. So for some reason, Elsie Silver made me like a trope that I don't typically go for. So that is this book, and it is about Willa's brother, Ford. And Willa was the female love interest in Heartless. So that is book 1, and this will be getting read in the month of June, so I'm gonna actually put that aside. Another book I will be reading in June is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is the first... That's gonna end up being an issue. This is the first book in the... I think it's going to be a trilogy. I'm not sure exactly what it's being called, but the Emily Wilde's trilogy. And I'm excited to read this. I know some of it takes place in winter, I think, but I just thought a nice cozy fantasy would be fun because high fantasy isn't something I really want to read in the summer, so I figured this was a nice fantasy book to add to it. Another book I'm going to be reading in June is Restore Me by Tara Mafi. The reason I picked this book was because I want to continue the series. I have 3 more books left. I am determined to finish it within the next few months, so I thought to force myself to get to the second half of the series, I would pick this book to be on my summer TBR. And I did manage to build it into my June TBR, and I'm very excited for it. I did just finish the 3rd book, so this is the second half of the series, the trilogy that wasn't originally supposed to be part of the series. So I'm excited to see where this goes because of how the last book ended. Juliet's story, I think, is just about to get really interesting. And then I have a little confession to make. I already read a book that I had put on this TBR because it was the first book I read in June. But I also planned on reading this book. So I read Finally Mine, which is the 2nd book in the Benevolent series by Lucy Score, and this is the 3rd, Protecting What's Mine, and I planned on finishing this series this month. So I figured to make sure I do that, I replaced Finally Mine with Protecting What's Mine. And this is Link, who you meet in the previous 2 books, and Mackenzie, who you just met in the 2nd book. Their love story. Link is like a local firefighter, and Mackenzie is a medic in the National Guard, I believe. She's in the armed forces. I don't know exactly what branch she's in. So I'm excited for this. Link's been like kind of the town flirt is the nicest way to say that for the last 2 books. So I'll be interested to see how he's tamed in this book that's his. And then the 5th and final book that I plan on reading in the month of June off of this TBR is Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura. This is a Indiana Jones inspired like rom-com, so I'm excited to read this. I think it'll just be a fun quick summer read. I have a weekend this month that I have a music festival, so I'm not going to get a lot of reading done, so I'm planning on trying to read this over that weekend just to continue getting books read, and it's something that's easy and I could just like throw in my bag and take to my friend's house that I'm staying at. So that is the last book I plan on reading for June. 2 books that are not on here yet are A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. That comes out at the end of June, I think June 25th, something like that, whatever that Tuesday is. And I do have that pre-ordered, so I will be getting that either that day or that week, depending on when Barnes & Noble ships it. They're not always like day of delivery. And then I also have Reckless by Lauren Roberts, and that is the 2nd book in the Powerless trilogy. That is coming at the beginning of July, so those 2 books are also on this TBR. Can't talk too much about Reckless, but A Novel Love Story, the basic premise from what I've read is that this girl gets stranded in this town while she's on a road trip, and the town is actually a manifestation of the town from her favorite TV show, and the love interest is this like grumpy guy that works in town, and she's like slowly realizing that the love story and what's gonna make this town complete is her love story with this grumpy dude. So I'm excited for that. I love Ashley Poston's books, the ones I've read so far. The Dead Romantics, love The 7-Year Slip. I could talk about that book forever. So I'm very excited for this one. Her magical realism is just perfect. It's just believable enough that it doesn't take away from the story. Like, obviously, it's not something that's going to happen, but it doesn't take away from it's not so out there that it takes away from the story. Second confession. I also read The Deal. That was the second book I read in June. And then I went and bought The Mistake because I loved The Deal so much. I wasn't even done with it, and I went and bought this book. So I replaced The Deal with The Mistake so that I still had 5 books to read in July and in August. And this follows Logan, as well as Grace. I can't remember if we met Grace in the first book. Her name sounds familiar. I know we met John Logan. He has an interesting story in the first book, so I'm excited to see how he overcomes that in this one. I have heard that not everybody loves this book, but I loved The Deal so much. I can't wait to get this book read. I don't know if I'm going to read that in July or August yet. We will see. The next book on here is Catherine Center's The Bodyguard. This is she's his bodyguard. They go back to his hometown because his mother's sick, and he doesn't want her to know that, like, he needs a bodyguard because he doesn't want her to worry, I think. I'm not sure. Oh, he has a stalker. So he doesn't want his mother to know about his stalker, so he brings his bodyguard with him but tells everybody they're dating. So fake dating, second favorite trope, and it just sounds cool. And I love that she's the bodyguard. It's like a little bit of a reverse there. And then next is B.K. Borison's In the Weeds. I think this is actually the spring book, but I never got to it in the spring, so I do want to get to this in the summer. And this follows Evelyn St. James and Beckett. Beckett runs the farm from Love Light Farms, and Evelyn was the social media influencer that came to the farm in the first book, and we found out that they had like a one-night stand previously, and they're like real flirty, real awkward with each other, and I think this is their second chance romance, so I'm excited for this one. Then I am borrowing Fangirl Down from my sister. This is Tessa Bailey's new release, and it is a golf romance, and she could not talk enough about this book, so I have no idea. Oh, so this is going to be a duology. The Au Pair Affair comes out in like August, I think. I only know that because I just ordered it for my sister, a special edition for her birthday. But he's grumpy. I love grumpies. So I guess she's like his fangirl. I guess she's his biggest fan, and she's always on the sidelines cheering him on even when he's not playing well, and she believes in him, but he's grumpy and starting to like throw the towel in. So she's wondering if like her faith was misplaced, and he wants her to be his new caddy to help him turn his game around. That's an interesting premise. I'm excited to read that one. And like, when else am I going to read a golf romance other than spring? So that one had to go on the TBR. I am just causing a ruckus today. Then I picked up Elle Kennedy's Good Girl Complex. I'm very excited to read this now that I've started to read the Off-Campus series, but I just saw this and thought it looked like a perfect summer read. I think I got it on sale. I don't know if I got this at Barnes or Book Outlet. I can't remember. I know a little bit about what this is. It's like she goes to this college town. She's like one of the like upper class people in the town, and she meets this guy that like hates people like that, and they end up like just having a very close friendship. But he's keeping some secret from her that threatens this place, and she loves this place because it's like her safe place. So that's really all I got. I don't know a ton about all of these books. Well, the next 3 I do, but that's all I got. It looked fun. I just bought the other 2 because Book Outlet's having their $5.99 fiction sale again. So I bought the next 2 as well. I don't know that I'll get to them this summer, but I figured while they're like $6, I was going to pick them up. Then the next book is Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. This is the 3rd book in the Magnolia Parks universe, 2nd book in the Magnolia Parks, what is a trilogy. And this is just going to continue to follow BJ and Magnolia's story as it ended in the first book. Can't talk too much about that. Obviously, if you haven't read it, I know a lot of people have probably read these books, and I'm behind the curve on that, but this is going to be an emotional roller coaster. So do I want to read it in summer when I want happy books? Not really, but I just feel like this is a good time of the year to read it. And I also just got Daisy Hates the Great Undoing in the Book Outlet sale as well, so that should be coming, and hopefully I'll get to that before the end of the year. Another emotionally draining book that I decided to put on this TBR was Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the 1st book in the Boys of Tommen series, and this follows Shannon and Johnny and their story, the first of the 2 books that follow them. That's all I really know. I know that these are like very deep, very emotional books, so that's all I want to know. I don't want anything spoiled. I've managed to not see the details of what goes on in these books, and I want to keep it that way. The type in this is so small, and these books are so long, and I have the next 2, so I do want to get a start on this series so that I can make some progress on it this year. And then the final book I have is Matthew Perry's Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. I have a goal to read 10 nonfiction books this year, and I'm only at like 4 or 5 right now, so I wanted to put a nonfiction on for the summer. And I think I'm finally ready to read this book. I bought it last year in the fall, and I just haven't been ready since his passing to read it, but I think I'm ready now. It's his memoir. It's pretty short. It's only like 250 pages. So I figured this is one that I can just pick up in either July or August whenever I pick this book to read, and I'll just read it intermittently throughout the month, which is what I typically do with nonfiction books. That's creepy. So those are the 15 books that I plan on reading over the next 3 months. Like I said, I'm going to aim for 5 books a month off of the seasonal TBR. I'm going to see how it goes and see if I want to continue it September, October, November to do a fall one, and then winter and spring. I kind of like that because it forces me to pick books that I wouldn't read outside of a season and put them aside and then focus on them. So we'll see how that goes. I think I'm going to pick my TBR in July a little bit differently, so stay tuned for that in a few weeks. And I'll see if I like doing this. I'm going to give it a few tries, and I've already started putting aside some of the fall books so that I don't choose them prematurely, because there are books that I am just like, that is an October book, that is a November book, and that's how I feel about things sometimes. So thank you for watching if you've made it this far. If you liked my content, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of my other videos, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.